Chinese AI startup DeepSeek sparks global frenzy. And it's a global frenzy when people start calling you from around the world and saying, "Did you notice this?" And FOI partner Manu Sharma called me about this. Peter Isaacson, Fair Observer's chief strategy officer, called me about this. Of course, our managing partner Sanjay Acharya is ahead of everyone. He's already using DeepSeek, at least the first version. So once that happened, and so many people said it's so breathtaking, and I don't know enough. I did what I tend to do. I started calling people who presumably know a little more than me and said, "Chaps, what do you think of it?" And here are the facts. DeepSeek is a new Chinese AI startup. It has released a language learning model that apparently rivals ChatGPT. The startup claims that it developed its AI model in only 2 months and spent only $5.6 million. Many, including Elon Musk, claim this is a lie. They say the number of chips used was much higher. DeepSeek had to stockpile chips. The money they've put in is much greater. Um, and we can't entirely believe what DeepSeek is saying. In any case, they are Chinese. And we know that the Chinese are never honest. And that is an attribute reserved only for Protestant countries, not even for Catholic countries. Anyway, uh, all right, I'm joking before anyone uh, who's Catholic decides to sue me. Uh, uh, and there's anyone Chinese as well. Importantly, even if this is an exaggeration that the Chinese s- didn't spend a mere 5.6 million, didn't use the few number of chips they claim they have. This severely undermines Silicon Valley business models. Um, Frankly, they are the equivalent of gas guzzlers that Detroit used to make. Um, they want prodigious amount of computing power, which is what fuels the demand for chips, and they consume gargantuan amounts of electricity. And naturally, if the Chinese can do it quicker and cheaper, someone said, "Well, you were getting a T-shirt for $100, and now you can have it for two." If that is the case, then obviously there'll be a loss of confidence in markets. And yes, markets, of course, the pendulum swings a bit too much. But importantly, on Monday, 27 January, Nvidia lost $600 billion in market value. And the NASDAQ composite, the index tracking the top US tech firms, fell by more than 3%. Mark Andreessen, who is the inventor of the internet browser, who is widely regarded as a sharp chap, if not a lovey, cuddly teddy bear. Uh, he's a leading venture capitalist, and he posted on X DeepSeek RI. RI is the first version that's been out. DeepSeek RI is AI's Sputnik moment. Of course, this will resonate with Glenn and older members who are listening today, because there was a time when the Russians, of course, launched Sputnik, and that shook up the Americans, and Kennedy promised to put a man on the moon. And of course, the American model turned out eventually to be more dynamic and innovative than the Soviet one. In this case, it's too early. It's a long, protracted chess game, and both China and the US will make their moves. Importantly, the Chinese achievement has come despite the US cutting off access to advanced chips and chip making machinery to China. Joe Biden consistently used trade policies to preserve US leadership in AI and AI related computer chips. Uh, that has not stopped DeepSeek. Importantly, and even though the numbers here may not be entirely accurate, um, and I got this from The Economist. The Economist says that Meta used 16,000 first-class chips for its model. DeepSeek only used 2,000 second-rate chips. If even if the figures uh, are lower or higher on the lower on the American side and higher on the Chinese side, um, this is an order of magnitude change. Importantly, according to Artificial Analysis Quality Index, which apparently many in the industry rely on and like, uh, DeepSeek's RI is already beating a range of other models, including Google's Gemini 2.0, Flash, Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet, Meta's Llama 3.370B, and OpenAI's GPT 4.0. So this is pretty significant event. Note something I learned from someone who knows AI quite well. He did his PhD in AI uh, way back, I believe, in the 1980s. Um, has followed development since, and he said something very interesting. He said, "Look, at the end of the day, think of all these developments in AI as an inverted pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid is the language learning model, LLM. On top of that are the app builders, and on top of that are the users. So DeepSeek is actually a pretty good thing for app builders. It is a pretty good thing for app users, and which is open source. So app developers and users will benefit a lot. In fact, the more LLMs that come out, the better it will be for the technology as a whole. And his point was that uh, the closed source, or the those who do not have any transparency in how their code works, like ChatGPT, they are the ones who will suffer. Facebook's Meta is open source. Facebook is trying to make money off apps. They won't. And what we will see is a, a shakeup in the US tech scene. And one of the things he talked about, and Glenn, I'll hand over the floor to you after making this point, is that he said, look, Silicon Valley, when I came, that is when this gentleman came to the valley, was a place for cowboys. People tinkered in their garages. People came up with new ideas. People um, were trying new things. They really loved technology. Um, he knows Steve Wozniak. He said Steve Wozniak didn't come in to make PowerPoint presentations to venture capitalists and to Facebook. Um, he genuinely had a love for technology and was tinkering all the time, playing. And what has happened over time is that cowboys, the adventurers, the innovators have they're still there, but they're more sidelined. Now, what happens is that you get a lot of people making uh, fancy presentations, running to venture capital's offices on Sand Hill Row, or running to companies who are also investing. And then they come up with something, and then instead of exiting in an IPO, in an initial public offering, they sell out to the Facebooks, the Googles, and others, and they become part of a bureaucracy which stifles innovation, which stifles uh, uh, new technology, which destroys the life out of the innovative spirit. And he pointed out that when it came to AI initially, Google had the advantage. Google had all the engineers who had created the technology that beat Gary Kasparov in chess. And yet, because they were so bureaucratic, because they were so political, because they were such a behemoth, because the culture wasn't right, they couldn't build on it, and others came up. And that is a problem when it comes to innovation now in big tech. And big tech is too big and should be broken up, because it's fundamentally un American and it's fundamentally uncompetitive. And he was arguing for a Teddy Roosevelt style trust busting breakup in Silicon Valley. And he said that big tech is partly responsible for the cost intensive and the power intensive models. And the Chinese, ironically, launched an open source model which has shaken up Silicon Valley. So, a company from an authoritarian communist country has shaken up a democratic country, and the democratic country has big oligopolistic players, and the authoritarian country supposedly has a nimble startup. Over to you, Glenn.
I mean, I, of course, am not qualified to make substantive assessments of the merits of um, the new AI model, but I think three things really do jump out as uh, clear explanations as to what's happening, and perhaps hints as to what will how this industry, I'll call it that, will evolve. You know, it's always the case in a society that the bohemians, the individuals and the groups on the fringes, are the trendsetters. Um, Jazz, America's contribution to music and to art, arguably, came was invented, developed. How does one describe it? Given birth by Black Americans who were just recently, at the time jazz was being evolved, um, freed from slavery. They were clearly the outcasts. The examples are infinite. And why is that? It's because people on the margins are not even allowed into the sanctum of process and taste and power and what is right and doable. The same dynamic obtains is you just described that tool in business. If something succeeds, you'll continue to do it, and you'll try to suppress your rivals uh, for your own safety and survival and growth, and you'll try to become larger. I mean, economic dynamics almost invariably lead to oligarchy and monopoly unless active measures are taken to break them up, or there's a cataclysm like a world war or something, like a trust buster who had some effect 125 years ago in the United States. So, Detroit was devastated by Tokyo in the automobile industry for that very reason. And it seems that well, it doesn't seem the same dynamic is emerging or playing out economically with regard to what do we call this high tech software computer world with Meta and Google and so on. So innovation comes from uh, smaller, more flexible institutions or individuals who are not wed to the methods of success of the traditional groups. So, in a way, that's a inevitable dynamic and ultimately a healthy one for progress. Uh, and it seems to be the what's happening. The last thing is something that was very important in my imagined understanding of the world was, and I think I mentioned it before, was when members of Congress came to my office and figuratively and said, please, this was now 20 years ago, but it doesn't matter. It's the same case today. They said, please identify the top, this is literally true, the top half dozen technologies in which America leads that we should protect so that we can maintain global supremacy. Well, I want to maintain global supremacy too. Uh, so the intelligence community looked at this, and our answer was, "You have asked the wrong question and framed the issue incorrectly," which, of course, is not something wise to say to your political masters. But it said that one, we cannot identify uh, technologies that we need to protect, because literally the life cycle in computer science is about 6 months. And by the time you go through the process of identifying something, it is probably then already obsolete. However, what has provided American supremacy and could maintain it is the unique web of combining uh, financial resources and flexibility, so investment capital being available, um, and diverse competing centers of excellence in research, universities and research institutions, provided a stable regulatory legal framework that is also flexible. That's the describes the American economy and society, and why you had Menlo Park in the 19th century with Thomas Edison, or Silicon Valley today. And so that's what the Chinese have worked hard to create. And this not quite fringe, but not dominant player, this little guy, had a success for totally predictable reasons. Um, Google uh, will struggle with its size and success now. Uh, I have no wisdom how to fix that other than trust busting and competing, and this creative destruction that Adam Smith so liked, and the Republicans like so much, uh, actually is the key to a response, I think.
Excellent. We are 1 minute to one, and we are ending on time. Uh, those of you who are here, thank you very much. And those of you who are listening to this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe our channel, press the bell icon, and send us questions and suggestions and critiques. We very much look forward to hearing from you. All the very best. Have a great 2025.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.